Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if it's your first time here. If it is your first time here, hi, my name is Roisin and I'm really glad you clicked on this video. Today I have got a handbag unboxing for you. It's from Tory Burch, so it's one of those sort of mid-priced, sort of accessible brands. I think this bag at full price was 900 and something pounds, so it's a bit mind-blowing that we call them accessible, but here we are. In terms of the language that is used, you know, around fashion and handbags and things, it's that sort of mid-price accessible luxury price point that it sits in, I believe. If you're literally just here for the unboxing, I'm going to timestamp down below the sort of story of me discovering this bag, why I bought the bag, and then also just literally me taking it out for the first time, if that is just what you're here for. However, the last video that I put up was also an unboxing. It was a double Christian Louboutin unboxing. I will link that up in the eye if you have missed it and you would be interested in that. But unboxings are not a particularly regular video on my channel, so for those who are regular viewers, I just kind of want to put a little bit of an explanation and context around the fact there's been 2 in a row here. So yeah, feel free to skip past that if you are not interested. But for those of you who are interested, and for anyone who's new and like wondering why I would be putting this into context, basically I used to have a real problem with overconsumption. I was always buying things. It was a real proper spending addiction. I went on a beauty no-buy in 2018 and 2019 and then did a no-buy year in 2020. Ever since then I have been doing a sort of different project every year to continue to try to manage my consumption habits. Now they are wildly different from what they used to be, you know, it's like night and day. But I am so conscious that I never want my channel to be one where I am showing you new things every week and unboxing things and sort of feeding that conversation or contributing to that sort of atmosphere that exists in the online space sometimes, where it just feels like everything's going at 100 miles an hour and like as soon as you bought something it's out of date because everyone else is onto the new thing. That is not what I am about here on my channel. So the reason that there has been 2 in a row is that all of this stuff I've still got other things to open and to show and to share with you, and I do really like doing that. I'm not putting it off because I don't like doing that or anything like that, but this is all from before Christmas because I've actually been on a no-buy for what ended up being sort of the first 10 weeks of this year. I did buy something towards the end of March and then I've put myself back on a no-buy for April. So this hasn't been recent spending as such, but because I at the start of the year wanted to get you all up to date with like what my opening totals were for my inventories and things like that, I couldn't really drop those videos in as much there as I would have liked to. I did do my Dublin haul, so that was also like an element of that kind of content already going live. But I would have dropped another one in earlier, but the opportunity basically didn't come up. So then I shared the shoes. I missed last week's upload, just life got really busy, but the week before. And I had been intending that would have been that kind of content being put up, and then you would have got a couple of weeks of me doing like my Q1 empties, my Project Pan update, etc. before I would do anything else about kind of consumption. However, this bag is one that I actually got in the Christmas sale. I bought it in between Christmas and New Year, so it was reduced and then it disappeared off the website. So initially I hadn't really been thinking that I would be sharing this bag in a video on its own. You know, I thought, oh, I'll just chuck it into like my general London haul because I'm not going to be able to link it down below. Like, I'm not going to go into that much detail about it. I'm not going to talk about it too much other than just kind of showing it and saying, you know, this is something that I bought kind of thing. However, it is currently back online, and it is back online with money off again as part of a sort of spring promotion or something like that. So that's why this is ending up going up this week, because this is now sort of time sensitive. I'm not sure how long this spring promotion is going to run for, but I thought it's surely more useful for me to get this video up. If anyone is interested in purchasing the bag after I share it, that they can go and do so rather than sharing it when I can't link to it and you would have to go and try and find it online or whatever if you were so inclined. I know not everybody will be looking at it in terms of as something to buy. Like, I watch a lot of these sort of videos just because I enjoy seeing bags and seeing what other people buy and how they sort of come to their conclusions about what to buy and what feels worth it for them and whatnot. So I know it's not all about that, and there will be some of you just watching for the entertainment. For those of you who do want a link, at least I can provide it if I get it up this week. So that's why we're getting 2 in a row. I think the fact it did go away and come back is actually such a good example when we are trying to be more conscious about what we're buying, that like even when something is on sale and when you know that that sale is going to end or whatever, clearly the stuff does not always disappear for good. Like things can always come up on like resale sites like Vestiaire or like even eBay or Vinted or whatever, but even with the own brand, yeah, this one has gone down and come back up. So I think that's such a lesson why you don't need to be pressured into buying things, because things can resurface. So that is something I'm definitely going to take away from having had this experience where it went away and came back. But yeah, with the disclaimer out of the way, let me get into talking about this bag, how I came across it, why I wanted it. So the story of this bag actually begins when I went to the Chelsea Flower Show last year. When I was coming back, I'm sure it was from the Chelsea Flower Show, when I was coming through Heathrow Airport on the way home, there was a woman at the airport with the most beautiful bag I had ever seen. Like she was going through airport security. I don't know if you've been to Heathrow Airport. I was like upstairs having gone through security, and she was downstairs going through the security, and I was waiting in somebody coming out the loo, so I was just kind of looking over the banister, looking down, and this woman's handbag, it was stunning. So immediately I was trying to Google it because it was really, really subtle branding. Like I could tell it was expensive looking at it, like that was obvious, but I hadn't seen the bag before, like I wasn't 100% sure, so I was like putting in like all these random terms like oxblood, over the shoulder, smooth leather bag, all of these kinds of things, and eventually I found it. So it was the Yves Saint Laurent Manhattan handbag, which I will insert a picture of here. It was the oxblood. It is stunning. It is a beautiful, beautiful bag. However, with my sensible head on, I looked at it, I looked at the price, I knew it was incredible, but it was also smooth leather. And one of my shameful confessions is that I have a bag in the loft, which is smooth leather. And I bought it when I went to New York in February 2016 with 3 of my best friends. It was a great trip, so it stays in my mind. I know exactly when we went. So it was February 2016. So we're coming up on like 9.5 years of me owning this bag, and I have never used it because the one in the shop was all scratched up and stuff. I got it in Henry Bendel, RIP. The one on display, I was like, oh, that bag's gorgeous, but it's scratched to bits. It was scratched to bits being in the shop. And the sales assistant was like, oh, I think I've got like fresh ones through the back, blah, blah, blah. I bought the bag. But even though I bought the bag, it is in my loft, in the dust bag. It has never left the house because I know from looking at the bag on display in Bendel's that that bag is going to get scratched. I have sprayed it with like protector and stuff, but I know it is going to get scratched. It's going to ruin the look of that like super smooth, beautiful, supple leather. So I'm scared to use it, so it sits in the loft, being essentially a complete waste of space and money, as beautiful as it is. So if I have done that with a Henry Bendel bag that was, I think maybe $500-600, I could not spend 4 figures on this Yves Saint Laurent one to not use it, but I also couldn't bring myself to use it and see it get ruined through use. Now I would think, of course, at the kind of price point that the leather's going to be really well finished, be quite robust, be quite resilient. I would hope anyway. I don't know, I don't own the bag. I would hope from that sort of level of brand and that kind of price point that would be a thing. But I think leather is leather, no matter how well finished it is, no matter what protectants you spray on it, it's going to end up scratched, and it would break my heart to spend that much money on a handbag and to have it scratched. To be honest, like any handbag being scratched would break my heart, but that at that price point, that in particular. So I was like, no, like we have to step away. It's beautiful, I still love it. If it was to magically appear in my life, I would be over the moon with that. but I just could not bring myself to spend my own money on it. So fast forward a little while, and I came across the Anya Hindmarch Mortimer bag, which had a very similar vibe. I also really like Anya Hindmarch as a brand. I really like her ethos, I like her ethics, I like her stance. I am into it, but it was quite a lot of money, and if I was totally honest, I just didn't love it the way that I loved the Saint Laurent bag. So I wasn't going to buy the Saint Laurent bag, but this was a not that much cheaper alternative that was a little bit more robust. I think it was like more of a grained leather, you know, a bit more sensible, but it just didn't make my heart go quite the same way as the Saint Laurent did. And then come December last year, I was in London, we were in Tory Burch, and I saw this bag. Here it is in its dust bag. So the drawstrings do say Tory Burch on them, but the bag is otherwise completely plain, so there's not really much branding on the dust bag, but it feels like a really nice dust bag, I have to say. Like it doesn't feel like a flimsy one, it feels really like a nice dust bag. I'm sure handbag people will know what I mean. So you can see the handle, this is the colour, and this is the bag. This bag is called the Lee Radziwill Textured Shoulder Bag, and this colour is called Ruby. So although the Anya Hindmarch one that I'd looked at was more of an oxblood, this is so similar in terms of the shape of the bag itself, and I actually think the colour is even better for my wardrobe because I love burgundies, but I really love like a reddy brown burgundy, and this is, I wouldn't call this a burgundy, like I would say this is red, but it's a very deep red. It's not like, let me grab my Mulberry Lily. Now I can't remember what the name of this colour was. Even this itself is not like a pillar box red, it is a slightly deeper red. But if I compare this against it, I hope you can see on the camera, this is definitely just that shade deeper. The colour I absolutely adore. Let me take off the paper. I've taken it off the front and the back. I've still got it on at the sides. I'll need to take that off later, but I think you can get an idea of the sides without me needing to totally remove it. So this is what the bag looks like. So in terms of in comparison to those other two bags, this has a very similar vibe. It does have a little T on the centre here, but just it's super quiet branding. So I think this looks like really quite vintage in a lot of ways, which I love. I really love a sort of vintage moment. I think anywhere 1940s to 1960s, I am in a happy bubble in those styles. So those are my sort of, even late 1930s I would take, but yeah, 1940s, 1960s, anything in between those decades I am particularly happy with, and I do think this sort of sits in that sort of 40s style in a lot of ways. Crucially, this is textured leather. So if you can see, if I bring it right up, it's got that beautiful grain to it. So this, even if it gets a little bit scratched, that texture is going to hide that so much better. It's not going to be like a smooth shiny bag that if I get one scratch on it, it's going to show immediately. This is going to be more robust. It's going to hide that. So in terms of opening the bag, the top does open without you having to actually undo this. And then in there we've got, this is like a structured boxy bag, so it's not going to be one that's going to take everything but the kitchen sink kind of thing. But we do have two sort of fairly small compartments here. I say small, you can definitely get your purse, your phone, etc. in there, but it's obviously not, you know, you're not going to uni and putting your books in it or anything like that. But we do have a zip compartment here for, well, I would say for your valuables, but it's again not particularly big. So probably your valuables you really would want to put in this front bit, because this is where you've actually got that little bit of a clasp kind of situation in terms of security. Although, to be honest, the front bit's not huge. Obviously, I'm thinking about valuables now that I'm reporting to you guys, but I wasn't really thinking about them at the time of looking at it in the shop. So yeah, not the roomiest handbag by any means, but absolutely beautiful. When you lift this front clasp here, you do have again just that very quiet branding, and then this is like a beautiful suede here that's lined with. You've also got suede at the side. I would have probably preferred had the sides just been the same colour, but it's such a minimal thing, I'm not going to complain about it. In terms of carrying it, you can clip this strap off. You're just carrying it at that point, so I don't particularly see me using it in that way. One of the things I really liked about this bag is that, as you can see with this strap, this is like shoulder strap, so if you guys can see, that kind of sits about here on me. There's the top of the bag kind of cutting in just about my waist. Nice, easy to throw up on your shoulder. However, if you want to make the strap longer, these little studs, which look like finished studs, or are finished studs, don't get me wrong, they are actually buttons. So you can unpop these and then you can slide the strap up to whatever combination. So you can clip it in with the last two, and that makes it like a proper long crossbody. So for me, that's now sitting like way down at my hip. That's quite a low crossbody on me, but you can obviously, you know, you could put the stud in to say this one or this one to make it just slightly longer, a lot longer, or much longer. What I'll do is I'll actually measure how long this is at the sort of full extension, and I will also measure how long it is when it's at this point, which is its shortest length. So I will put the shortest and longest length of a strap possibility down in the description box for you. But yeah, that is my new bag. I think it is really, really beautiful. A much more purse-friendly price point than the original bag that I fell in love with, or even the first alternative that I found to that. And I think like a lot more practical too. I also think this kind of colour, which is Ruby by Tory Burch, that's going to fit into my wardrobe really well, probably better than the Oxblood actually would have. Although, as I say, if the Yves Saint Laurent one was to just magically appear in my life, I'd be so okay with that. Like, totally fine. I just don't want to spend my money on it, but I'm so good if anyone wants to send it to me for free. But yeah, I don't see that one happening sadly, but I am very, very happy with my Tory Burch alternative at, you know, a 3-figure price point. So as I say, this is back on the website. I think full price this was 900 and something, but it's got 30% off it at the moment, so you're getting it starting with a 6, which I think is in the ballpark of what it was after Christmas. I think it's probably the exact same price. Not exactly what one might call a bargain in the scheme of life, don't get me wrong, I'm not deluded enough to say that it is a bargain, but in comparison to the original, I feel like I've spent my money much more wisely and I'm really, really happy. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's been helpful. If you've got any questions about this bag, do leave them down below and I will try and get back to you as soon as possible. So yeah, have a lovely rest of your day and I will see you in my next video, which I promise will not be another unboxing. We will be back on our empties, our using stuff up, project pan, all that kind of thing from next week. So I will see you in that video. Bye!